aircraft, but they don't dissipate in less than a minute as contrails do. In fact, they hang about for some time, slowly dissipating, and are often sprayed in crisscross or X patterns. Many of you claim to have seen, photographed, or videotaped these chemtrails, yet Transport Canada and the mainstream media won't even acknowledge they exist. That's because, according to Thomas, they are part of some kind of sinister plot to both control the weather and to cull our populations. This may sound like yet another nutty conspiracy theory. We're not so sure. At least we think Thomas deserves a listen. You decide. Here now, continued from last week, is part 2 of Chem Trails.
Now, I've been an environmental journalist for some 10 years. I attend conferences, I talk to scientists, and I keep up to speed on what is happening to this planet. I talk to advisors to this government, scientific advisors, and they are unanimous in calling what is happening to our atmosphere a global emergency. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a scam. This is actually happening. Poles are melting at an unprecedented rate. In the Arctic to the north of it, at such a rate, in fact, that the cold water now entering the North Atlantic is intersecting the North Atlantic conveyor, bringing warm water and nutrients up from the tropics and cooling that and slowing down this conveyor. And this is the conveyor that moderates climate across England and Europe. And you saw the huge windstorms and rainstorms this year, all the trees knocked down in France, the superstorms they're calling them. And we're seeing more and more of these superstorms. We're seeing rainfall patterns change, droughts, floods, tornadoes in winter. And it's the insurance company, not the environmentalists, that are pushing governments to act. The insurers are panicked. We're talking an industry even bigger than the arms industry and the fossil fuel mafia on this planet. They are very concerned that an unstable climate may destroy the insurance industry and take down the banks that back them. Insured losses were up 10 times from 83 to 92, and that was just the beginning. Lloyd's of London has lost $11 billion in 4 years, and I don't believe they're going to be able to sustain those kind of losses. Hurricane Andrew alone cost $15.5 billion to insurers, and now they're saying catastrophic losses from climatic extremes will total $30 billion a year, here on out. At the same time, we have a real emergency with the shredding ozone layer that protects our spaceship Earth from solar radiation. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has revised its estimate of skin cancer deaths from 9,300 to 200,000 over the next 50 years. Now, in August 1998, there was an international seminar on planetary emergencies. And Edward Teller took an idea, first proposed in 1979 by the renowned physicist Freeman Dyson, who proposed that we insert sunlight-reflecting particles to deflect solar radiation and cool the planet. This wasn't just an idle theory, because when El Chicon erupted, the resulting fallout from that volcano slowed the global warming trend 25% and gave the people saying, well, there's really nothing to this global warming, quite a lot of ammunition for a year or two. So at that conference on planetary emergencies, when Edward Teller, the father of the H-bomb, stood up, he proposed a similar sunscreen. And he said, if we can block 1% of incoming solar radiation and reflect it back into space, we will neutralize global warming. I have some very good researchers working for me, and they have very recently come up with a paper, a study done at the request of the U.S. government by the Lawrence Livermore Lab, the national laboratory in the United States, and they looked at this and they said, we can do this. It will cost us $1 billion a year. And that's 1% of the $100 billion a year it will cost our economy if we have to curtail fossil fuel use back to 1990 levels to slow global warming. Oh, sure, we can go to the solar age and alternative technologies that you know and I know are available. Of course, the oil cartel doesn't want us to do that. So here's an idea. We spray this sunscreen, we cool the planet slightly, and we can go on burning fossil fuels, and the corporations can go on making their profits. An environmental consultant named Mike Castle, who consults for the U.S. government and other corporations in the United States, got in touch with me and thought, maybe this is what's going on. And then he discovered a patent actually taken out and awarded to one of the big aerospace defense contractors in the United States, Hughes Aerospace, patent 1990000513145, stratospheric well-stacked seating for reduction of global warming, a process to reflect infrared energy back into space. And this patent called for chemicals to be sprayed into the greenhouse gas layer, wait for this, 22,000 feet and higher. What were they going to spray? Oxides of metal. Which oxide? Aluminum oxide. Now you're saying, well, that's a heck of a lot of airplanes flying a lot of missions to spray that kind of material. So we turned to the United States Air Force, and you know what I found? They happen to own over 800 tanker aircraft, KC-135 and KC-10 aircraft. Exactly the plane that we have positively identified in hundreds of photographs and miles of videotape as the aircraft spraying these chemtrails. So could this really be happening? I mean, we have the study, we have the airplanes, we have the money, we have the patent, and we have the primary ingredients, aluminum. Well, we also have scientific proof. Because the people of Espanola, Ontario did not sit by and take the spraying in their community and resulting sickness among their families and children lying down. This is an Ojibwe community, about 80 miles to the west of Sudbury, Ontario. And in March last year, they began noticing these jets flying these crisscross patterns overhead, and they came down with joint pain and stiffness, often on the left side of their bodies, extreme upper respiratory problems, gastrointestinal problems, illness throughout the community. And then they saw low-flying aircraft come over, C-130s, spraying a red powderish material. My colleague went up there at that time and collected a sample just after the latest incident. We had it tested. Hundreds and hundreds of pathogenic molds and fungi in that spray, that low-level spray. But what about the higher-level spray? The people of Espanola raised such a ruckus that the Ministry of Environment Ontario was forced to get involved, and they ran tests on rainwater following the heavy spray days. And guess what they found? They found carbon black, which the United States Air Force says they use for weather modification. They found hundreds of molds, fungi, but most of what they found was aluminum. 7 times the safe level. Aluminum at levels the North Lab said would kill fish. We have the lab tests, we have the study. It matches the Hughes patent. It matches what Edward Teller and Freeman Dyson and others were calling for. And it certainly looks to me tonight that what we are seeing is an attempt, a desperate attempt, at atmospheric modification. But weather is also being modified. We ask the United States, what the heck's going on? And they say, here's our report, Owning the Weather, 2025.